The story of Elisabeth de Valois. At dawn, the tolling bells echo against the pink walls of the Alcazar. The bells ring, but with them rises another, quieter sound, the muffled sob of a girl who never chose her own life. Madrid, 1560. Inside the royal chambers, splendor glitters. Statesmen draped in silk and velvet stand in ordered rows. Incense smoke drifts upward toward a painted ceiling. At the altar stands King Philip II, stern, frigid-faced, waiting for his bride. She approaches, cloaked in gold, burdened by a weight her thin shoulders cannot bear. Elisabeth de Valois, a child thrown without choice into the center of a political tragedy. Those who write history will frame this as romance or diplomatic triumph, but the truth is different. It is the deliberate destruction of a young girl's soul, a fairy tale lacquered with religious ceremony, where the human being at the center quietly disappears. Europe is drenched in blood. France and Spain are drowning in years of war. The remnants of the Italian wars still smolder beneath them. The pride of kings has been paid for with the misery of their people. Streams of gold and silver emptied into war, leaving common folk in suffering. Peace is needed, but only on parchment. The Treaty of Cateau-Cambrésis becomes that treaty of peace, and its price is human, the life of a princess. Elizabeth grows up in the airy houses of Paris. Silk garlands, music, painting lessons, Latin classes. Amused tutors praise her intelligence and her courtesy. But politics calculates differently. At 13, she becomes a valuable commodity in the marketplace of states. Her father's signature becomes not just ink on paper, but the sealing of a living paragraph, a nervous young life traded for peace. The transformation begins slowly, like the ticking of a clock. Her colorful dresses are replaced with heavy black Spanish gowns. Play, laughter, running under the trees, all stripped away. She is trained in a new language. Each Spanish syllable sits in her throat like a stone. The fitting of Spanish clothing is not only tailoring, it is the grinding of her spirit. How she will walk, speak, smile. Each lesson slices away another piece of the child. Then comes the bitterest chapter, the so-called examination. In a chamber, the underdeveloped body of young Elizabeth stands before physicians, bureaucrats, and Spanish envoys. To them, she is nothing but an object to measure. This is not medicine. This is notarization, turning her body into a living document, sealed like a legal contract with red wax. They make her body into a living document, a guarantee for the trade of love. She cries alone, not from physical pain, but from a grief that strikes the soul. Her journey to Spain becomes a long funeral march. Every mile pushes her farther from who she once was. People celebrate her along the way, but Elizabeth cannot feel it. They cheer for peace, and she knows each cheer has its cost, and she is that cost. At the border on the Bidasoa River, her French companions bid farewell, and the Spanish attendants begin rewriting her life. Old clothes, jewelry, identity, all removed. She steps onto that bridge, a live-in boundary, and each step tears another piece from her past.
Spain's royal palaces, dazzling from afar, are dark and rigid within. Philip II, 32 years old, a skeletal glass-like face, devoid of gentleness or curiosity. In court, he behaves like a merchant, never warm, never indulgent. Elizabeth recites the Spanish phrases given to her, and every word feels like a small death, because in each word, she loses a piece of her former self. Their first formal meeting is an assessment, not an encounter. The marriage is a contract. The Catholic rites only a ritual covering. For the child, it is the death mask of her own dignity. In the eyes of the state, she has value only if she bears children. The wedding night, the physical union, is a duty, devoid of tenderness, layered with humiliation. And the next morning, the blood-stained sheet is displayed publicly, a token of the kingdom's purity. To the court, Elisabeth is merely a production unit. Her joy or sorrow is irrelevant. Physicians record her menstrual cycles, her sudden pains, her miscarriages, all transformed into lines on bureaucratic ledgers. She conceives again and again, and loses again and again. Each miscarriage becomes another statistic to the administrators. They prescribe poultices, diets, bloodlettings to stop the bleeding, never once considering she is only a teenager. She has small shelters, music lessons, private prayer in French, places where she speaks to herself. In chapels, she sees sacred images, depictions of Christ's suffering and tortured martyrs, and sometimes she begins to wonder whether her own pain is also part of some holy order. But even prayer, once her private refuge, becomes public display. Religion turns political, and her suffering becomes a piece of royal propaganda. Philip is dutiful, but not humane. There is no space for conversation between them. Only state matters. Elisabeth learns his moods, his temper. Each mistake becomes a scar she must carry. Courtiers analyze her face constantly, sometimes too expressive, sometimes too meek. Nothing is ever right. Failure means she can be replaced. Pregnancies begin. Each pregnancy holds the kingdom in suspense. The first ends in miscarriage. No one considers it a tragedy, merely an anonymous failure. More pregnancies, more loss.
At 17, she becomes pregnant again. This time, the pregnancy nearly completes. Hope rises. Personal joy blooms for the first time. Perhaps a child could give meaning to her life. But to the kingdom, it is merely output. The child is born, but it is a daughter. The court's disappointment is so sharp, it feels like a business report. Elisabeth holds the baby only for a few moments. Then the child is taken for examination. More pregnancies follow. Her body toughens. Her mind ages prematurely. By 22, Elisabeth's body seems twice its age. In 1568, another painful labor begins. 2 long days, doctors unable to decide what to do. Finally, another daughter is born, Catherine Michelle. After the birth, Elisabeth sinks into terrible bleeding and fever. The doctors are useless. She drifts into memories of France, the soft girl she once was, a mother's voice. Her final words in French, faint with exhaustion, "Je suis fatiguée."
I am tired.
October 3rd, 1568. Elisabeth de Valois dies at 22. The kingdom buries her with royal honor. Papers mourn diplomatically. History offers only a brief footnote: the French princess who died without producing a male heir. But we remember her differently, as a child offered to state and diplomacy whose life was never her own, who was crushed beneath the grandeur that demanded her humanity. Her life is a warning. When people are turned into instruments, the victories written in history do not show the number of lives erased behind them. Her story says this, bone deep. History is not just treaties and signatures. Behind every political gain lies personal loss. The ruin of Elisabeth de Valois is a reminder of how easily dignity and human rights are violated beneath honor, power, and ambition. Her story tells us, To protect life, we must never place political success above humanity.